getting break. There's a break in your voice as well. Okay. So this deep water well engineering is about the planning, but we'll see what we'll be learning as a part of this training, the 1 week training. So in this we'll be talking about what is to be considered when you are making a drilling, deep water drilling. So for that we need to go in details about the geology, not the simple geology. We'll take some case and we'll apply it by case. I hope by end of this the training, by end of this training, you'll be good at your deep water well engineering. And coming to this third is about we need to understand the operating and environmental aspects, because we are operating in a remote location which is away from your shore, and that's why we need to keep a eye on the environmental aspects as well. So where divers are also existing. Yeah, here the deep means I need to explain the two terms. So when you talk about when you hear the term called as shallow water or deep water, that indicates that if it is human approach, human can reach that location, that is a shallow. If the humans cannot reach, that is a deep water. So wherever the human intervention is not possible, we call that as a deep water. And the one where the humans can enter and do all the activities, we call it as a shallow water. So in your offshore, we have a shallow as well as a deep water, but we are particularly talking about the deep water, where the normal humans cannot reach easily. So for that is why we have another additional things we need to consider to replace that planning. So there is some particular planning is required for that to have a successful project. So we need to understand the well planning and the structural design, where we'll focus on the pore pressure, fracture pressure, how it is done. And coming to the structural design, it is talking about what is the strength of the casing and how it is going to impact our project. Next is operational engineering and emergency response. So for any plan, there should be a plan B. So if something goes wrong, what is your alternative plan? So that plan is nothing but your emergency response. So we are also going to focus on put a light on the riserless drilling as well, which is nowadays a very important task. Last but not the least is we have a wellbore drilling. Where the stability is to be controlled, and the other aspect is a well control aspect, because like a normal well, we also encounter with a kick, and if it is not controlled at an early stage, it is going to turn into a blowout. So we need to kick that unwanted influx which is entering into your well, irrespective of the problem. First we need to plan it properly. So coming to your what is the DE1, how we are going to start. So as I told, this is a world map of the complete world. Out of that, there are certain areas which are indicated with a green, and some are in yellow. That indicates about what is the depth. Is it a very shallow or very deep? And also it has some thickness. It depends upon how much sediments have been done. So this comes to the picture. In general terms, we talk about geography means it is about the surface, whereas a geology, it will start what is lying below your surface. So in this we are going to focus on light of the concepts which are relevant for your deep water. So basic concepts like first is we call it as API. What is this API is? We need to acquire the data. what type of data we are talking about. So this diagram in the adjacent one is going to give you detailed information about what type of data we are going to acquire. So we are in this, we are using a ship vessel. Through that we are sending a signal, and this signal, you know that if it is a hard, if you take a ball and hit on the ground, obviously it will rebound very fast if it is very hard. If it is very soft, obviously we will not be getting the rebounds. The same type of phenomena which is applied by your Newtonian theory, Newton theory for your corpuscles we call, which is applicable for light theory. The same type of theory is applicable here, and out of this there are some certain rays which are reflected in a proper manner, and some are absorbed and diverted to the other direction. This is because of we know the refractive index in light, so which is dependent on the medium. So here also we'll going to create a pulse, and from that pulse we'll see the response of that. So there are different cases of how we will be taking this record. This is what I mean acquiring. So in this acquiring we have two different scenarios. One is called your hydrophones. The other one is we also use ocean bottom sensors, which are very important for the deep sea, deep water exploration. So keeping this in point of view, that first one is nothing but we call a towed stream geometry. Here we have a connection through which it is connected to a three different layers. So all this, the purpose is to acquire the data about your subsurface. So here is the cross section of your subsurface. So in this we are going to store it, and how it will be stored is if we have a different format for that. So Society of Exploration Geophysicist has recommended different formats of storage, and SAGD and SAGXY. SAGY is of the different formats in which the seismic data is stored. So coming to the how in deep, like how it will happen is this is what the satellite navigation. So whatever the information that is received is sent, it is exchanged with your shore data. The source, so there are different sources how we'll be creating the seismic, and here we'll be using a sounder, like we use a sound as a source. So from there, depending on the rebounds, as I told about the theory, Newton theory or light theory, so there is like it may be in the form of a Newton corpuscles, or like a wavelet theory where Huygens principle is applied, and the same theory is being applied for your acquiring this, and these response, whatever the you are going to have, it is being stored into this laying. So as I told that if it is very hard, it with the response is very fast. If it is very soft, the response will be delayed, and this all depends upon the conditions. Like the seabed is having a soft formation or a hard formation. Now coming to this, if you take a part of this and you view it as an isometric view, this is what you have two important components, the cross section and an inline. So there is like a slice, horizontal slice. So if you cut across this horizontally, that will give you a layout like this, and from this is very crucial important source to identify about the geology of the formations. So another one is we are going to cut it vertically downward, vertically down, so that is going to give you this type of information. But the main problem is this may not this information whatever is stored, it is not clear. So we need to apply the filters such that the response will be this image will be much more clear. So this is having some poor image, so we need to apply the filter in such a manner that this image is the quality of the image is improved. So when you see the geological conditions, the general geology, we have a particular sediment which is having a particular response, and in between that you have a delayed response or some uncertainty is there. So this is all in this example we have a uncertainty, like in geology what we consider is one particular type of sediment is being deposited all throughout the world, that is at a particular time, and this phenomena is continued for n number of layers, because as the age of the sediment is old, obviously it will be at the bottom, and the age of the younger will be at the top. So for having hydrocarbons is dependent on your TOC and other contents, like hydrogen to carbon ratio and oxygen to carbon ratio, so which will tend to have a hydrocarbon. So coming to this image, from this we need to conclude about what type of formation it is, where there can be a chance of your hydrocarbons. So coming to your other aspect, as I told, so we have seen the geophysical aspect, but we should also understand the geological aspects. So this, if when you take the cross section of that, this is what we have planned. We are going to plan like this. But to have this type of setup for a well, we need to have a stable formations below this. So here in this case, there is a salt dome. You also have a hydrates as well. And you know that when you plan for a deep water, we need to plan about the waves influence on our structure as well. So we'll take the history of that waters for the last 100 years. We predict that whatever the height it has reached during your cyclones or in your tsunami will have a will decide that will take the risk and will add something that is much more higher than your that can may happen, but of course nature, we can't prevent the nature to happen something. So coming to this, this is how the geophysical survey will be done, but that will give you the information in the form of the seismograms, what we have seen in the previous. But geological aspects should also be considered. Combining both will give you the proper information. So this is when you take the same in a isometric view, this is how the setup will look like, and we have a different type of geological aspects which are found in this simple one area. Now, so when you take the cross section of that, which is elaborated of this one, so you can have a seal which is like here. There will not be any escape from that, and we also have a hydrates, which is also upcoming thing. All the hydrates are not they are explored, but they don't have a proper technology which is commercially recoverable. So considering all these aspects, so this is what a project should be considered. So we need to have a preparation, equation of and reporting. So we have done some form of a equation. So basing upon that, we need to make a report. So where I told you that we have equation, processing, interpretation, and reporting. This is all the stage of your geophysical aspect, and this is about your pre-planning, what type of preparation is to be done. Once this is being done, we need to think about who is going to invest in this. So that will start after 16 to your 26 weeks. So considering that this is what the time taken for a project to kick off, almost it takes 26 weeks, which is half the year. So we need to do all this in a stepwise manner, and generally this equation processing and interpretation data is in different countries. the government will do the acquisition processing, and interpreting is provided to your operators. So they will conduct the interpretation of that, and they will apply for the bidding. This is what happens in a normal way of doing a project. So coming to your other aspect which we need to consider is your considering the pressure management. So this is what your actual well, and here is what you have your sea water. If it is very shallow, as I told that humans can approach easily. If it is very deep for water, it is very difficult. So in this case, we are talking about this condition. This is at a continental shelf. So in this continental shelf, what is this 500 feet? And we are taking multiplication with the gradient. What is that gradient is? Your 0.5 psi per foot. So multiplication that with your gradient. This is with respect to your water. But what about at the 1000 feet? So this has both the effect of water as well as the sediment which is above this. So because of that, it is not 0.45, but it is having a gradient of 0.70 psi per foot. So when you multiply the 1000 feet with your 0.7 psi per foot, we'll be getting the 700 psi. So that is what the total. This is 500. Because of the 500, it will be 225, and when you add, this is going to give you 925 psi. So this is what the hydrostatic pressure which we applying on the at the formation. Similarly, if you consider that this is half of 1500, so how do you consider that? This 1500 is a water, so it has a gradient of a 0.545 psi. So considering that this will give you the 700 is here, and adding that will give you 1375. But coming to your gradient of overall, so if you divide this to 1375 divided by this 2500, obviously it will be coming as 55.55. Similarly, if you consider this as a 3000, obviously we will be having a calculation. So in all these cases, if you consider that the pressure, we need to manage the pressure. So for that, here we require a mud with a density of 11 3 ppg. But here we need to prepare the mud according to your 10.2 ppg. So what is why we need to prepare it is because of this graph. So if you take a normal case, the red color is indicating about your pore pressure, and the curve line which is indicated, this is talking about your fracture gradient. So whenever you plan, we need to do by bottom to top approach. So this is a normal profile of a well, but if it is having a constant gradient, this is how it looks like. So in this case, like whatever the points you are observing here, these are the points of where we are going to place the casing. So these are like a different case, cases, case 1 and case 2, case 3 and case 4, 5 and 6. So all these are having different conditions, and accordingly the casing profile is being designed accordingly. And how we'll be deciding is like we'll have a page on, and from there we'll be considering this. Now considering this, what is this is we are talking about the shallow and deeper, right? So this is what the trend will observe, like how far the compaction will be there in the shallow water and in the deep water. So as you see that the distance of the travel by the sediment, the smaller the particle, so more the compaction will be there, and it will result in a cementing. The same thing when you consider the in terms of your mud, we need to consider the influx. Let me tell you what is this influx. So during the drilling, what will happen is we are going to drill one, each formation. So during that, we need to add different pipes to the existing pipe such that we can reach the deeper formations. So during that, we need to pull some pipes up and make a new connection. During that, there is a chance that this hydrostatic pressure, whatever is applied, is going to be lesser than your external pressure, which is pore pressure. So in this case, what happens is there is some gas which is going to enter into your well. That gas will enter into your well, through which we see that there is a spike in your pressure. So that influx, we need to manage that influx. We don't want such influx to be repeated again. So that is why we need to either circulate it. So during that, we call it as a swab and a surge process, during which you will observe this type of influx which is entering into your well bore. So what will happen if the gas is going to enter? So that will affect that, it will create a mud loss. We need to see that both inside and outside should be of almost the same. Of course, some differential pressure should be existing between your internal drill pipe and your external annulus. If that is going to be lost, what will happen is all of a sudden mud will be gushed out, resulting in this gas will rise up to the up to the surface, resulting in a blowout. And we don't want such situation. So coming to your the below graph, this is more related to your the stress which is applied on your formation, such that we need to know what is a minimum stress that can be applied without fracturing. So there is some stress we need to consider. If you take any particular formation, at that point, if you want to know what is the stress, the minimum stress will be along your horizontal, in the vertical direction, and horizontal it is very difficult to break. Because of that, you'll see that there is a lot of variation between your vertical effective stress and your horizontal effective stress. So what is this diagram is depicting from this is, during this how to find out this fracture pressure, we need to pump a certain amount of fluid into the formation. So during that, what will happen is the fluid will enter into your well bore, and during that you will observe this type of a leak. So what is that leak is the formation is about to break. That is called limit test. That on pressure is called limit pressure. But soon after it crosses that limit, we call that as leak off. So after that, the formation will try to retain it, but after a certain point, once the formation breaks down, it will allow a sudden drop will be there, and because of that, the pressure gets dropped, because you lose some volume of your fluid which is entered into your formation. Once it crosses this, it tries to propagate. It will try, the propagation of this fracture will be propagating in towards the inside. So at time, you'll see that one particular point, the pumping, whatever the pumping is, that it is completely went out, and that is going to be like pump ceases out. So after that, we'll have a if you remove that fluid, what will happen? It will, because of the external stresses, it will try to regain. So because of that, we need to plot this graph, which is more about your wellbore stability. So this is more relevant for your fracture pressure, because all this test will finally result in your understanding of your fracture gradient. So coming to your day 2, here we need to understand about what type of environment we are operating it and what are the environmental conditions. You know that any object which is kept inside on the floating on the water, it will be exposed to 6 degrees of freedom. it has a freedom to rotate in this direction in all the 6 directions, either forward or backward. So this is called a surge and a sway, heave and yaw, and pitch and roll. All these are the 6 degrees of freedom that are being exposed for your the vessel. So why it is being exposed? Because of the sea waves, they are being they are under tremendous pressure. Because of that, it will either move in this direction depending on the stability in that body. So in this body is nothing but your floating structure. So this is what the scenario which has been observed in the case of Gulf of Mexico and Western Africa, Brazil, Norway, and Atlantic frontier. So there are different depths, water depths, but they similarly your conditions are also different. I mean, what type of conditions is like what is the height of the waves you will be exposed to? What is the minimum height? That are different in all these cases. That you can observe it in this diagram. Yeah. So generally we do manage the stimulation, but that will be done like extreme condition. If you are unable to do any type of modification to the your existing well, because stimulation is the ultimate last resort, that if you are unable to change it by cleaning or any of the sources, the final decision we are going to take is to fracture the formation. So we should think as a last resort. We should not do it as an initial stage. We have to plan with all the possible ways. Then only we have to go to the final conclusion of fracturing. Because once you fracture, you can't join it. It is very difficult. Particularly where your permeability is very low. In that case, we have to do the stimulation job. I hope I have answered that question. But anyway, so when you see this, these are very important, the adjacent diagram where you have a diverter. So diverter is generally used during your initial drilling, like shallow water when you are in the surface, in the conductor, when you are placing the conductor casing or surface casing. During that we'll be using the annulus between that conductor and surface is placed with your diverter. So any influx, unwanted influx will be there during that time, that will be diverted through your diverter. So you have a riser. Let me tell about the riser. Riser is a external material which is protecting outside, I mean, which is protecting your drill pipe from the outside environment of the sea. So that riser needs to be added at the bottom. Otherwise, the external water is going to enter into this and it will damage. Next, what is this upflex joint is? You know that the ship is going to move in up and down direction. Because of that, it should not disturb your drill pipe structure. I mean, drill pipe. So it will result in some stress which is applied on your joint. So that is why we have an upper flex joint. Here you'll have. Next is a telescopic joint, is like a round circle through which you'll have a choice. It will move here and there. Next, tensioning is a ring, is like to allow it to move up and down. We have a this. Similarly, we also have a another flex joint which is in between that. So if you have only the top and below, so there should if you don't have the middle one, there is a chance that it can break at the middle one. So all these are connected to your wellhead connector, that is at the here. and from that it is connected to your wellhead. So oceanic environment is very important in the deep water, so we need to consider about that. And what is this map is showing about? It's showing the direction of the winds. Because of that, this structure should be analyzed, keeping this waves in period of time. You know that during the different seasons, the waves are going to have a different direction. So we need, when we do any project, we need to consider all these effect, considering for the whole year. So what happens is that during a normal connection, it will work very good. This is connected to your riser and riser to your subsea BOP, and from there it has been connected to your well through wellhead. But at times you'll see that because of your severe weather condition, this platform is going to move here and there, or it is going to move up and down. So because of that, we need to have a system automated that if it is going beyond a particular limit, it has to be it has to be separated from your original by closing it prior to your movement. Before it is going to move off, it has to close on both the ends such that there will not be any leak. So this is first part. And second part, like for do any project, we need to follow a certain norms that everything is dependent on the cost and time. So we need to have a proper design of all this. What is the, where you are going to place and when you are going to do it, and what is the cost involved, and how many people are required. So there is a lot of other thing. And apart from that, equipment requires a maintenance. There are certain which will become loose or anything, we need to repair it. So we should also consider that once we have done the job, how we are going to abandon it by recovering most of the things. That is very one of the essential thing. The other thing is having a proper policy, like how, what to do and when to do it. So this has to have a vision, like how we are going to proceed, and that from there we are going to identify a program. What type of program, where suppose how many wells should be drilled and where we need to plan it. So all this need to be defined as a part of your planning. So once the planning is done, during that we have a design, and after that we'll build it. So building, we require different vendors. We need to identify who are going to help us get our desired hardware. So after doing this identification, we need to take a brief input of our conditions, from where we need to define our program. So program means how many days we are going to do a particular task, and what task should be followed by other one. So once everything is been done, the next thing is we need to think about are you able to do it in within the stipulated time, and how do you improve that. So we require a workforce, so who are going to support it, and there should be some senior members who are going to help it and lead a team to have a proper drilling. So other important thing is the 3 CTR is very important for any project. So time, cost, quality and HSE is also important apart from this. So considering all this, health and safety is one. So where we should not compromise in the quality of the environment. So considering this project planning as well as this CTR, we are going to have a proper execution. So this is talking about like a subsea blowout preventer system, how it is being done. So because all these are the essential things, without a blowout drilling is very difficult. So that is why we need to follow the cycle. So what is this intervention is intervention at times we require repairing works, and that we call it as intervention. Operational consideration is what task we need to perform after that. And next is your time savings, because for a shift change we need to have a proper report, otherwise it is very difficult for the other person who is going to join the shift. So there should be some proper report, we call it as a DPR. So next is like how the evolution has been happened in this case of shallow to deep water. This picture will give you the complete role of that. So apart from that, this essential, we need to have a proper planning, and this is how all things are interrelated, and this is what the success of any project is dependent on all these things. As you see that the fineness will increase as it is going upward, so the level of success will be more at the top rather than at the bottom. So here also this shows about the analogous to your light theory. When you have this type of cardboards which are arranged, this is how the you can observe it. So suppose here we don't have a proper well integrity, obviously your casing will fail, and there is also chance of your gas leakage will be there. So here also the same condition. Anyhow, we'll be talking that in detail when you go with the day 2 program. And these are the stages in your project. As I told you about the schedule, like how much time it takes is given in this in a snapshot. So first is your project brief, followed by initiation, report, and what are the lessons learned, and after that we need to do the post review of that. So when you plan all these things, there are some certain risk we need to have. We are going to have it. So we need to have a proper risk management process as well, where all this has to be followed and it has to be documented. So coming to your day 3, we are going to have a planning. So planning needs what is project scope is nothing but what is included and what is not included. So it is going to be followed in a systematic manner. First we'll assess, then select and define and execute. So this completes your close of your project. So during the first 2 stages and 2.5 stage, we are going to have a value identification, which is very important because you will be getting the money from that. So in the second half, it is more about is it going to really work out? We need to have that realization. So where we'll see how we can perform a best project. So if you see the casing plan of casing and cement plan, this is how the your water, which is of 4,000 feet, and similarly your this is a deep water, and this is a ultra deep water. So as the depth indicating that the depth is very high. So if you see that during as you go down into the deep water, this is dependent on your water depth in addition to your actual well depth. Both are important. So here also you have a water depth which is 9,000 feet, but the actual depth is same as your shallow as well. But the thing is the pressures when you are considering along with your 9,000 feet, the scenario is going to change. So in this day 3, we are going to learn about what is well planning and how we are going to execute it, and what are the different cases that is possible. So design is very important. We use implementing your Excel sheet from where we're going to execute this project. Next, the structural design of the well. Why the structural design is so important is, even though we are going to implement about your casing policy and cementation and everything. Without riser, it is very difficult. So we need to understand how much strength the riser is having, such that we can have a successful deep water project. So this diagram is showing about your BOP, where you have above your riser pipe, so which is connected to your flex joint. So it is going to be having like a continuous cycle of here and there. So that shows that this riser should be of a very flexible one. So anyhow, we'll do in settle some calculations basing upon your APA standard 5C3, which will give you some details about that. We'll take one example of that during the day 3. So coming to this, this is nothing but the same thing in an elaborated diagram. This is how it looks like. So the continuation of that, these are the different well designs which are available in the different regions around the world. Most of the things are being covered in this single picture. So coming to your this one, there should be some clearance between your previous casing and the next casing, such that you need to have a pumping of your cement is possible, and even for repairing also it will be very easy. If the the gap between that clearance is very small, it is very difficult to retrieve it and repair it. So regarding the selection of your size and your casing, it goes from your down to your up. So we don't see much cases of where it is going up to your 4 3/4, but this is a complete diagram from where you will be having a selection of your hole sizes. So how you have to select the hole sizes is dependent on this chart, and this is a standard chart which is used for all the selection. It includes both the size selection as well as the casing selection. So first the hole size should be higher. Inside of that the casing is going to fit. So if you take the case of your 30 inch casing, we should have a hole size of 36. Otherwise we can't place the this 30 inch. And these are the same thing where you have one more thing is, when you talk about a deep water, we have to consider a benchmark for your depth. So out of that we'll be considering this RKB. What is this RKB is? RKB is your rotary Kelly bushing. So as I told, like we have a how do you select where to place your casing? That is purely dependent on your pore pressure and fracture pressure. In between that you will also have a mud. So using that we'll have a planning of where to place the casing. So if you see in this adjacent diagram, one here and there, so here there is a line, there is a break here corresponding to your red line. You have a 20 inch at the surface. This is the point where it is going to struck. So here you have your conductor. Similarly, at this point where there is a break, you are seeing your 13 3/8, and followed by the next casing break at 9/5/8. Anyhow, we'll be doing it in detail in our the program, 7-day 1 week program. But this is how the setup will be, and we'll talk in detail during that time. Now coming to your when we are drilling in a particular region, we need to follow the rules and regulations of that country or the region. So for that regulations are very important. Basing upon that, we need to plan the operations. Of course, there are different regions where we have a different norms we need to follow. Yeah. Uh, I will answer your question in the last. Let me complete this one. So operating, we need to plan the operations according to your local regulation, which are instructed by your government or a regulatory body. So for that, we need to submit a regular report of how safe we are doing it. So that is why, how can we do that? So we need to plan a process where we can identify the hazard and evaluate the risk, identify, and according to that, we'll make the report. And the identification of that will make us much more safer operation. So as a part of that, we need to make sure we need to follow a path where we'll be evaluating your risk. LRP is nothing but as risk as low as possible. Alarm, low risk, as low as risk possible. And this is what a simple flow chart of how it will be done, because ultimately we need to have a safe drilling, but we need to have a proper production as well. So next important topic is about deep 5. We'll talk about your riserless drilling. Riser drill, even though we are talking about riserless drilling, we need to take other considerations, which is about what type of formation it is, and how it is going to affect our production. We need to have. So if you take the land type of drilling, this is how the setup. But if you are doing a surface offshore, this is a fixed platform where from where we are having it, and here we are using a riser. So here also the another case where it is a floating one. So by placing this this riserless, so there is no external force that is acting on your actual drilling process. Anyhow, we'll talk about that riserless in detail. So we have some best methodology, and these are some practices which need to be considered, where it is being decided basing upon your equivalent mud weight, and we know that the fracture gradient is also existing in this. So here you have a mud will have a pore pressure which is slightly higher than that, and that followed by your uh, there is a margin between your fracture pressure. If you are going to go up to your fracture pressure, obviously the formation will fracture, and we don't want such situation. That is why we have a margin for that as well, and this is what we consider as a maximum mud weight. So these are like the diagrammatic representation of if you do a whirlpool, what will happen. And similarly, this is about a soft formation. You have an alternative soft and hard formation. During that, you'll have this. So if this is a condition about your stuck pipe, I mean stuck is there. So we need to pull it very properly. Otherwise, it gets stuck up there. So we are also having how the cement, how we are going to run the pipe, and after that how we'll be having a cementation is done. So what is a jet pipe, and how we are going to use it. So which is not possible with all the coordination among the teamwork. So this is the diagram which is going to show you all this in a one single flow chart. So in the day 6, we focus more on your BOP, that too relevant to your subsea BOP. And during that, we also use drilling risers, which are of more flexible one. So in that, we are going to focus of different conditions we are encountered and how we are going to answer that. So all this is related to that. So this is how the vessel will be look like and how it is been connected to your bottom. So this when you see the floating, this is how it is been connected. So because of the wave influence and this is going to bend like this. So in that condition, we need to have a stability for this platform. So if you take the close look of this area, this is how it looks like. So this is going to move up and down, and if you see the top view of that, that is how it looks like. And how do you monitor that? We have a hook load indicator where we'll be considering your hook load corresponding to your time. So all this is what we have. And coming to your intermediate wellbore. So intermediate wellbore is more important because when we want to cross your loss circulation zone, we need to have an intermediate type of planning as well. That is why we call it as a with a different name, intermediate wellbore drilling, where again you need to consider the safety aspects as well. And this is what the diagram will show about the different conditions that are possible. So how do you record it? We have a sensing electronic gauges from where we'll be recording it. So during the production region, we need to check all the mechanical things like completion equipment, cementing is done properly, or hydrostatic is being applied properly. So whether we have isolated the existing one with the packers or not, all these things we need to observe it. So what do you call this as a like barrier? Why barrier? Because it will not allow the happening of an event. So how what type of barriers is like during your drilling, the primary barrier is your what you call drilling mud. After that, the secondary barrier is your casing. Casing is a secondary, and third tertiary is your cement, which is being bounding it. So all these are will make a complete barrier. It is not like a uh, one barrier will be there. So, but how do you verify that it is verified by your flow direction, and we need to do the pressure test. All this will be focusing using your Excel sheet. We'll take one example, and in the D7 we'll combine all these concepts into one, and we'll apply to one example. So in this this talks about how the yield point. So here we are talking about what is the law LCM. LCM is nothing but your loss circulation material, because there are certain formations where your permeability is more and there is a chance of drilling mud is losing very fast. So during drilling that lower circulation region, we need to be very cautious by using a loss circulation material. So if you don't do that, what will happen is there is a drop in your hydrostatic level, which will affect your wellbore condition, so that the formation fluid will enter into your wellbore, resulting in a gas influx. And we don't want such situation to happen. So that completes the what is going to happen for the 6 days, and in the 7th day we are going to consider all the 6 days program, and we'll combine it into a single one, and we'll try with an example.